So the August Reid Institute released a poll today about the C5, which is the One Canada Act, the Build Canada Act, that will fast track infrastructure projects and implement free trade between provinces, that kind of thing. So they asked 6 questions, and I find this really interesting because I have problems with 4 of them. I want to go over this with you because this is has a big influence on how we as Canadians debate this issue. So as you can see on the screen, the first 2 I don't have a problem with. Reducing trade, labor barriers between provinces, 88% of Canadians agree with that. I mean, it's kind of like motherhood and apple pie, right? I mean, I don't even know who the 5% are that disagreed, but whatever. Fast tracking major infrastructure projects. Now that gets 74% approval, and yeah, you can kind of understand. I mean, how many British Columbians took this poll and went, oh yeah, sure, we could have another pipeline shoved down our throats? Remembering Trans Mountain expansion and the federal government, being taken to court by the BC government, losing, because the federal government has exclusive jurisdiction over projects that go across borders, provincial borders. That's a pipeline. That's power grid. That's all of that stuff. So I can see that, but still 74%, right? It's good. It's a fine question. There's nothing wrong with the question. But the next one, now I'm having a problem with this. Requiring consultation from Indigenous communities, but not offering a full veto on projects declared in the national interest. Okay, look, this is how this works. Under Section 35 of the Constitution, on projects, major projects in traditional territories and reserves and so on, there's required consultation with Aboriginal communities. This is not optional, and it has to be done thoroughly. You remember it was 2018, the Trans Mountain expansion approval was taken to court, and it was squashed because the judge ruled that the government and the company had not done adequate consultation. The federal government had to take another 9 months to do it correctly, go back to court. Yes, the judge said that was done correctly. Now you can proceed. And there are principles, set out in legal precedents about how consultation, the objectives, principles, and so on that have to be met. So, but here's the thing. So why ask if consultations are required, or if it makes it sound like it's an option? It's not an option. It's mandatory. But here's a good one. Not offering a full veto on projects. This came up in Trans Mountain expansion. It's come up in other projects, and it's debatable. It's worth debating because Indigenous leaders will argue that full informed prior consent means the ability to say no, and under UNDRIP, that's what they're supposed to have. And if you can't say no to something that to a project that crosses your traditional territory, built on your traditional territory, then what's the point? What real, full informed and prior consent do you have, really? Nothing. It's just a performative exercise. That's what they would argue. And so I don't like the way there's an important issue here. The wording it's worded poorly. Okay, number 4, declaring some projects in the national interest to override provincial oversight. That doesn't happen. That's not what this is all about. The One Canada Act is designed so that federal and provincial environmental reviews can be combined. So it's not one overriding the other. It's not like the federal government is going to override, BC's approval or BC's environmental impact assessment process for any kind of project, and pick your province. It'd be all the same. It's that they will be combined together so that the proponent of the project doesn't have to go through it twice, and it doesn't take twice as long. And so they're asking the wrong question. It doesn't make any sense. Nobody's overriding the provincial oversight. They'll be combined. So there'll be federal provincial oversight. Okay, number 5, limiting provinces' abilities to block energy, mining, or clean tech projects. Now, I just said, according to the Constitution, provinces have exclusive jurisdiction over, like in my case, natural resources, which means energy. So anything kind of like clean tech project that crossed the borders is going to have to require some kind of federal approval. And it's regulated by the Canadian Energy Regulator. it's not that the act, the One Canada Act, Bill C-5, is limiting it. It's the Canadian Constitution that's limited, and this has always been this way. And I reported, I think I did a video on it a couple weeks ago, and when Trans Mountain expansion, when the city of Burnaby and then the BC government were making it very difficult for Kinder Morgan to construct the Trans Mountain expansion pipeline, the National Energy Board ruled twice, at least twice, and agreed that the Constitution said that federal government has paramountcy. And what paramountcy means is that when federal and provincial laws conflict, the federal laws are paramount. So BC lost on that. And so it's not C-5 that limits it, it's the Constitution that limits. It is and again, a poorly worded question. And condensing or bypassing environmental reviews in certain cases. Well, this is kind of like, the fourth question. It's essentially just asking it in a different way. And that's the whole point, is by taking two, a federal and a provincial environmental impact assessment, and making it one, and then condensing it, compressing the timelines is really what they want to do. Because, the industry is upset, most industry. The oil and gas industry, the pipeline industry, I imagine the, utilities are going to be in on this act, but they're upset because the process gets dragged out for years and years and years and gets challenged in court. And what Carney has said is that from the time basically the project drops, the approval drops, that they're going to limit it to 2 years. Okay, and that means environmental impact is going to have to be compressed. And I just did an interview with Sean Fluker, a professor of law at the University of Calgary. And it was, okay, you want to speed things up, you're going to break stuff? You still have to do it right. You don't get to do it poorly in the interest of speed. You still have to do it correctly. And that opens up the door to all sorts of mistakes and things not getting done the way they should. So while this poll shows that Canadians mostly support Bill C-5, they don't really know what they're supporting. Because the questions are not related to, they're very poor questions. So if you see a story about this Angus Reid poll, and it just came out this morning, so chances are, there'll be other news outlets covering it, take it with a grain of salt.